It's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here. You had me thinking you were dead. How's your taxpayer mansion? It's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here. You had me thinking you were dead. How's your taxpayer mansion? How was your...
Are you bored and need some company? Get a TV experience like no other on Unity TV. We are turning up the hits with captivating TV shows, electric,
Mr. Politician.
And again, Unity TV. Beatrice Adamuiji is my name. Lots of people would say, thank God it's Friday. And for us on this platform, we say, thank God it's a Friday, a peaceful Friday morning. The 29th of September 2023. And this morning, I am honored to have in the studio an in-house analyst, a political scientist. Mr. Shoaibu Duro is very much around this morning, and so I'll let him say good morning to our lovely and wonderful listener and viewer.
Good morning, Colby. Thank you very much, viewer and listener, for always staying tuned. Happy Juma. Thank you for staying tuned. We look forward to an interesting interaction as usual. You're welcome.
Yes, we look forward to having an interesting interaction as usual. And this morning again, though not on this segment, but of course it won't be out of place to introduce him already. We are so honored to have someone in the studio, and he is Ustaz Abdul Karim M. Dayip, a scholar and a social activist. And later on, the topic will be, set on for a discussion. But for now, I'll let him say good mornings to our listener and, of course, our viewer. Good morning.
Good morning, all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you very much. Now, as usual,
Yes.
Doro,
Yes.
Still talking about peace. Peace is that one thing you can't afford, to miss in a
Yes.
community as ours.
Definitely.
And world over. Now, let's do it as we are used to doing it.
Definitely.
This segment is actually that segment which we look at issues. We pick some of them and then we just do a review. And so this morning we'll do the same. And so we have this one coming on the Vanguard. It says, Tribunal. Northern youths warn against interference in Kano politics. Ever since the judgment was passed, we have been having reactions as
Definitely.
regard, even also the need to sustain peace.
Definitely.
In Kano. And again, we are now seeing youth groups and other stakeholders coming
Definitely,
into vent their
definitely.
own opinions to it. So what are we to do around this issue?
Well, could be Kano, like I have maintained, is one state that is politically very strategic as far as Nigeria is concerned, as far as northern Nigeria is also concerned. It's also a state with a very rich political history. This is it. Of course, you've got the likes of Abubakar Rimi, right? And other prominent Nigerians who are actually sons and daughters of Kano State. In other words, the state is one that has actually produced vibrant and of course very visionary political actors and all of that. This is it, and not just that. It's also a state, that is actually blessed with, a very huge, population. And like they say, politics is normally a game of number.
Yes.
And I think if you're talking about why, the political culture in Kano State seems so toxic, I think we must attribute it to, I think the desperate, or the cutthroat competition over, the control of the soul of that, particular state, given its, a huge population, and things like that. It's one state that no particular political party, especially a party in power, would actually want to lose. This is the issue. And so, having said that, you can actually see, how important, or how strategically important, Kano State is. This is the issue. And then again, of course, there's been this running battle between, immediate past governor of the state, Umar Ganduje, current, chairman of the, APC, and of course, his one-time boss, talking about Rabi Musa Konkoso, with whom, he eventually, fell out, and things like that. And I think that if you're talking about or X-raying or examining, matters arising as far as recent development in Kano politics, are concerned, I think we cannot overemphasize, the running battle between these two, political gladiators who are both, prominent and eminent sons, of Kano State. This is the issue. And a week ago or thereabout, the governorship petition tribunal sitting in Kano State actually, delivered a verdict in favor of the All Progressives Congress and its candidate, Nasiru Gawuna, as against, the incumbent Abba Kabir Yusuf, also known as Gida Gida of the NNPP, which of course is, is a brainchild. I'm talking about the NNPP now, which is a brainchild of, a former governor of the state, Rabi Musa Konkosu. And of course, again, the incumbent himself is a political protege or a political godson of Rabi Musa Konkosu. This is the issue. And so, since then, like you rightly said in your preamble, there have been, exchanges between, adherents, loyalists of both political parties. This is the issue. And so it appears that the political atmosphere in Kano State is actually, heated up as a result of, this new, development and all of that. While, supporters of the NNPC are actually, jubilating and celebrating the judgment, those of the NNPP, are actually feel that what has actually happened is nothing short of a democratic robbery, perpetrated on the innocent people or the peace-loving people, of Kano State and things like that, who overwhelmingly, voted for the NNPP, and things like that. So these are some of the issues. Now, under the aegis of a group called Northern Youth Assembly in HAUSA, also translated, as Shirin Matasa, some youth in Kano State are actually advising the APC-led administration to ensure that partisan tendencies do not actually interfere with the political situation in Kano State, because so doing will actually could actually have very dire consequences and things like that. And the youth group is actually speaking against the backdrop of the fact that there are allegations that certain political appointees of President Bola Tinubu have actually gone extra mile, have actually attempted or are actually working behind the scene to actually scuttle the judicial processes in Kano State in order to favor the APC and things like that. Specifically, I think the protagonist as far as this whole narrative is concerned is the current APC chairman Umar Abdullahi Ganduje, who after the judgment has continued to be accused of actually pulling the strings, or pressing a button here and there, using his privileged position as APC chairman and to actually overturn the judicial processes in favor of the APC in order to teach his arch rival Rabi Musa Konkoso some political lessons and things like that. You want to say something?
Yes, well, I just wanted to qualify. Okay, like you mentioned, the former governor of Kano State now being the chairman of the APC.
Yes.
So that people are beginning to feel that that would give him all of the privilege or opportunity to press the button if he wished to do so.
Definitely. Yes. Well, you're very right, Kulbi. The Hausa person will say, this is the issue. If you have a mother behind the pot, the cooking pot, you don't eat your tuwo without soup. It doesn't happen. Now, the point here is that,
Your swallow.
The APC, yeah, you don't eat your swallow without soup. And I think that at the moment we could actually say that the APC has got Uwag in the Murhu. The APC has got a mother behind the pot in the form of Umar Gandu.
Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying. I think that whichever way you look at it, strategically speaking, I think we would be right to say that the APC actually has some upper hand as far as this whole thing. Especially when you look at it against the backdrop of the political culture, in Nigeria, where the judiciary, still has a huge deficit as far as transparency and integrity, are concerned and things like that. I'm not saying that we can't be categorical or theoretical here as to whether there has been some political interferences in the judicial processes or not, but I also do know, and I think that is what is informing. That is the allegation, and I think when you look at certain recent developments, you could have reason to believe that politics, whether we like it or not, has interfered one way or another, with the modus operandi of the judiciary as an institution, and I think that is probably what is informing this particular alarm by these youths that care must be taken not to actually attempt to meddle with the political situation in Kano State in favor of a certain political party and things like that, because it could have their consequences and all of that. And we do hope that the APC is going to play by the book. The APC will actually play by the rules, just to ensure that at the end of the day, because Kano Abba Kabir Yusuf, the NNPP, have actually both decided to actually appeal the judgment, and I think that's a civilized decision on their part. This is the issue, rather than resorting to violence, instigation, inciting followers here and there. I think the civilized thing to do is to pursue available legal options, which the NNPP in Kano State and the victim of the judgment, Abba Kabir Yusuf, have actually decided to do. So going forward, we hope that should actually be the way to go.
Yes, Mr. Doro, again, I think away from that, next week we are all looking towards, we don't want this to happen actually, to how to shut down the economy of this country. So this headline says, negotiate with state governments. The National Economic Council tells NLC and TUC.
Well, this is apparently coming against the backdrop of fuel subsidy removal and the inability of the FG, the federal government, to work out effective post subsidy removal, palliatives and things like that. And that's been a bone of contention. Could be it's a very controversial issue, isn't it? First of all, let's say that if the NLC has decided to go on strike, as a result of this issue, I don't see anything wrong with that, because at the end of the day, we didn't expect this, and this wasn't actually what we signed up for when we brought President Bola Tinubu on board as president. Although we have always said that there must be some justification for fuel subsidy removal, and things like that. But where I have problem is the fact that not much has been done to palliate the sufferings that Nigerians have gone through since fuel subsidy was actually removed, and nobody actually saw that coming. We had thought that President Bola Tinubu, being the civilized and pragmatic and proactive politician that he is, was actually going to handle the issue with the seriousness it actually deserves. But apparently, there seems to be some skepticism as to the sincerity of the federal government, to actually do something about this. And you can see, hundreds of thousands of workers, and millions of Nigerians are going through hell as a result of this particular development. So then the NLC is actually saying, on the 3rd of October,
yes,
something, on the 3rd of October, if something is not done, and apparently I don't know what can possibly be done between now and then, and so if something is not done, the NLC and the TUC will be left with no option.
The federal government is still, asking that this union should give more time, so that the federal government can have more time to be able to decide on what to do, instead of going on and such a strike.
Yeah, well, I think again, like we did say when we were discussing with Professor, Johanna Izam, I think the day before yesterday.
Yes.
It will not be a bad idea to actually give the federal government some benefit of doubt But the point I'm trying to make here is that, I think the impression that citizens do have at the moment is that the federal government has not handled the issue, with, the seriousness, the issue actually deserves. And that is creating a lot of doubt and casting, a lot of skepticism on the sincerity of the government to actually, come to the rescue of the millions of Nigerians who, are going through hell as a result of, this particular decision to remove subsidy, and all of that. Now the issue is even assuming an entirely different dimension, because the Ministry of Justice is actually coming into the situation. This is the issue. Now, yesterday, the National Economic Council actually, advised the NLC and the TUC to consider, negotiating with their respective state governments, because, of course, when we discuss issues that have to do with palliatives and better working conditions for workers, there will always be peculiarities. This is the issue. What Plateau said might need as a sort of intervention might not actually be what Bauchi State might need as a sort of intervention and things like that. And so I think the National Economic Council is right to have actually advised the NLC and the TUC to pursue their grievances and demands through their respective state governments. This is the issue, and so I think that that is quite welcome. But having said that, could be like I did say, the Ministry of Justice is actually saying that the NLC and the TUC ordinarily don't even have any legal right to want to proceed on an indefinite nationwide strike. Because there is a pending injunctive order, actually restraining the NLC and the TUC, issued by the, National Industrial Court on June 5. This is the issue, and the issue is still pending in the National Industrial Court. And so as far as the law is concerned, when there is actually an issue pending before a court, the issue still remains binding and valid until it is actually set aside. This is the position of the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, when actually he was commenting on the issue and things like that. So he's since written a letter to the NLC and the TUC asking them to kindly observe, and respect this, injunctive order by the National Industrial Court, and therefore not proceed on any strike until the issue is eventually resolved legally, and things like that. But the NLC and the TUC are also saying that there is no law that actually stops them from going on strike, because every promise made is normally bound, burdened with the responsibility of fulfillment. That is the position of the law. And of course, according to them, the FG has made several promises to actually intervene in this whole issue, but not much, has been seen to have actually come from the FG and things like that. And so they feel that, legally speaking, they are actually good to go as far as the proposed strike is actually concerned. So these are, some of the matters arising as far as this whole issue is concerned. But I think, like the FG has actually, pleaded, I think it will not be a bad idea for the NLC and the TUC to consider, giving the FG, the benefit of the doubt. Because at the end of the day, could be, when the NLC decides to actually shut down the national economy by way of proceeding on, a nationwide strike, at the end of the day, the millions of, common citizens whose interest they might be fighting for will still be the worst hit. They will still bear the brunt. They will still be the most affected at the end of the day, because banks will actually be shut down. There will actually be probably a total blackout and things like that. There will be no fuel supply, because I understand that the National Union of Petrol and Natural Gas Workers, NUPEN, will also be joining in the strike and things like that. So at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a total shutdown of economic activities, which might not go well for you and I. So I feel that, negotiation at the end of the day is always the best way to go about it. I feel so, and so I think that, while, the FG pleads with the NLC and the TUC to consider, giving the government the benefit of doubt, the government on its part needs to demonstrate some more sincerity, in addressing the issues.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Doro. Actually, my head has been down because I just I've seen a report, from the PPRO, Plateau State Command.
Yes.
And that is why I'm just trying to go down to just read through. And it has to do also with one of the topics, headlines that we have chosen for today. And this one is a very sad one. And it has to do with us on the Plateau. It's a Okada man Linji taxi driver in Jaws. And yes, there's this report from the PPRO, or maybe I'll just find a way of it. Yes, and so it's so sad and is condemnable. There is no way such a thing, is something to reckon with or even to associate with. It's something I least expect, even on the Plateau. You have these people using. Okay, I see them as family. You have the Okada man, you have the taxi drivers. And somehow you want to believe these people are, should be neighbors, the most closest ever, having working together, But what have you to say on this as we round up in the next 5 minutes?
Well, could be, my heart is also heavy, and it's quite a tragic one, isn't it? Because, like you rightly said, I think at the end of the day, taxi drivers, commercial motorcycle riders, are supposed to be partners in progress, aren't they? They are supposed to be, partners in progress. Just yesterday or the day before, we were talking about extrajudicial killings.
Yes.
And how condemnable it actually is, and things like that. People should not just be taking the laws into their hands, and things like that, because I think, if we must behave as civilized people, and of course I want to believe that we are civilized people, then we should always find, legal ways of actually channeling our grievances and things like that. But, resorting to taking the laws into one's hands, is actually extreme. It's outlandish, it's barbaric, and should not actually be. Now, the name of the victim, the taxi driver who, is said to have actually been killed on Wednesday by some, Okada riders, in other words, commercial motorcycle riders, is Thomas Fuimbe, 30 years old. And what happened was that, according to the story that we have, which of course was confirmed by Alfred Alabo, the police public relations officer for the Plateau State Police Command. What the story suggests is that the taxi driver was actually accused of actually brushing the motorcycle of a certain commercial motorcycle rider. You understand? And apparently, the Okada riders who were around actually got angry, and decided to descend on the driver. This is the issue. And then, one thing led to another, and the rest is actually what we now have. The commercial, the taxi driver, was actually beaten to death, by these angry, Okada riders, and things like that. And before the police could intervene, it was already too late. This is the issue. And so, in a nutshell, this is actually the development.
Yes.
But you see, Colby, I think, we condemn that in the strongest of terms, because it's not supposed to be, and we do hope that, the police, will actually do the needful, as far as bringing the perpetrators to justice is concerned. I'm glad, that Mr. Alfred Alabo has assured, while speaking on behalf of the, police commissioner, that the police will actually pursue the issue to its logical conclusion and make sure that whoever is found guilty is actually brought to book. And I think, that has to be done, in order to, because at the end of the day, you see, the problem with some of these, incidences could be, is that, it actually triggers, a lot of negative sentiments, you understand, because I want to believe that the victim, Mr. Thomas Fuimbe, actually probably has a wife and children.
Yes.
Yeah, and you can imagine the anguish, they will be going through as a result of the extrajudicial killing of their father, who, we want to believe is, was or used to be their, breadwinner, and things like that. That's number one. And then number two, we also want to believe that he actually has parents, whom he probably was supporting economically, financially, and all of that. And having lost him in this manner, I think it's really a hard one to take, isn't it? Now you imagine that, his extended family decide to actually also take the laws into their hands. You imagine that his, nuclear family also decides to take the laws into their hand. What we will actually have at the end of the day will be, an anomic and a very chaotic situation, and all of that. Like they will always say, an eye for an eye will always leave the world a blind place. So if his family, his friends, his neighbors, his tribesmen and things like that decide to take the laws into their hand by doing exactly what has been done to him, we will be, throwing, ourselves into a serious confusion. This is the issue. And so we hope that whoever is responsible for this will be brought to justice, you understand, to actually serve as a deterrent, and then to also make sure that justice is served.
Okay, still on the platform for police media jobs, one of the suspects that killed the both young men has been arrested for this and information from the PPRO.
The PPRO, Mr. Alfred Alabo, yes. Also that's actually heartwarming, isn't it? And the young man who has been arrested might actually know the other guys who may be responsible for this, and so I think the arrest is quite a good fit as far as the whole issue is concerned. Like we have said, we would love the police to pursue the issue to its logical conclusion, while we also plead with the family of the victim to exercise patience. We do commiserate with them, because it's a very, very tragic situation. Our hearts go out to them, and all of that. But at the end of the day, we believe that we can trust the judicial process. We believe we can trust the police to actually do the needful as far as this whole issue is concerned.
Yes, of course. At this point, such an incident, a very sad one, brings to mind the curfew that we have, posed in some part of the state.
Yes.
And then again this morning in recent editions, C2 reports, we received a reporter who called to, draw attention to the issue of reckless, Okada behaviors in the city of Jos, and also, tricycles and all that, having to know that there is curfew in some part, and then you get to see them still patronizing these very routes. And so people are beginning to wonder, what is happening? There's curfew, and then you still have them to do all of these things. And so now, Mr. Kingsley Barnabas will always call and say, now, who they do us? With this incident, I know the police will now come all out to make sure they do the needful, and
Definitely.
then who would you blame in the end? And so thank you, Mr. Doro, for being in the studio and for taking us up until this very time. Our viewer and our listener will go on a short break. We'll be coming back, and I want you to stay tuned. Thank you.
Mr. Politician, it's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here. You had me thinking you were dead. How's your taxpayer mansion? How was your... Mr. Politician, it's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here. You had me thinking you were dead. How's your taxpayer mansion?
Thank you so much for still staying tuned to Unity 93.3 FM and Unity TV. This is Friday and is the 29th of September 2023. Before I forget, it's good that you get to know that tomorrow, Saturday, happens to be the last Saturday of this month of September. And so for us on the plateau, it will be time for environmental sanitation. So we beg that you do the needful, and thank you so much. Beatrice Adamuiji remains my name, the anchor of Unity Train this lovely Friday morning, and I've been in the studio with Mr. Shuaibu Uduro. Yes, and then on this segment we have a guest. Of course, I introduced him earlier on, but of course, because this is his own time, let me just take him again and again on another big introduction. And so the topic we'll be looking at this morning is Eid al-Mawlud, a spiritual essence and lessons. And so to do this, of course, I have on the studio someone who is capable to handle such an interesting topic. Ustaz Abdul Karim M. Dai, a scholar and a social activist. He's in the studio. So good morning, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, let's just go into the discussion.
Okay.
You get to tell us much about, in the next 3 minutes, let's get to hear about Eid al-Mawlud.
Well, good morning, audience and viewers. Mawlid with the E sound under L, that is lit, is an event where the life of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is commemorated.
Okay.
The sole essence of improving our spirituality and the relationship we have with ourselves, with Muslims, with non-Muslims, and emulating his attitude towards human being at large.
Okay.
So that's just the concise definition of what Mawlid is all about.
Okay, I love it when you capture that it has to do with the way you emulate, you extend, you do as Prophet Muhammad did, with either with Muslims and non-Muslims. And so I'm so interested in this. Okay, so can we begin to mention some of the way, some of the things, some of the behavior that is expected of the Muslim Ummah who are said to have celebrated this Mawlid?
Well, to start with, I think it will be good if you mention one of his hadiths that says the best of you is the one that benefits humankind most.
Oh, mine.
Yes.
I love this.
So looking at what he says and how he acts upon this will definitely let you understand that for one to emulate the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, primarily he has to establish a very good and cordial relationship with everybody. And then he again says, Al-Muslimu man salim al-Muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi. A real Muslim is someone who Muslims and his neighbors as well are safe from his hand and from his mouth. That is to say, they are not afraid of what he is capable of doing wrongly to them, and they are not afraid of the words he will utter against them. And then the third one is that he said, I was sent to perfect good conduct. Anything that has to do with goodness, with humanity, he was sent to make those things perfect. And the Quran says, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. There are good qualities bestowed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that is worthy of your emulation. You are to emulate all that he is doing, being its interaction with his social environment, interaction with those who are close to him, his interaction with relatives, with his wives, and how he trained his children. So to this extent, Mawlud is actually aimed at addressing these issues. We checkmate our activities and how we do it with respect to how he does it. And then after checkmating, make sure that our attitude are improved positively. Yeah. So if you are able to achieve that, even if you do not practice the Mawlud as it is done this time around, you are still performing Mawlud. So that's why some scholars are in the opinion that every day is a Mawlud day. But this one is special because it has to do with the time he was put to birth. And you know that whenever you have something that happened at a particular point in time, you celebrate it more when the time comes.
It's always historical.
Yeah, that's why every day Nigerians, of course, celebrated their independence. But once it is October, yeah, we celebrate it more. And we reflect back where we are coming from and where we are and where we tend to go. So basically, these are the things Muslims are expected to look at and make sure that they are being improved spiritually and otherwise.
Now, Ustaz, I love your submission with regards to the introduction, you just made about what Eid al-Mawlud actually is. But I do also know that, Muslims do have other Eids that they actually do celebrate, either annually or, from time to time. We do have Eid al-Mawlud, which has just been celebrated. We do have Eid al-Fitr, which is also another, festivity that Muslims celebrate. And then we have Eid al-Kabir. Okay, Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Kabir, and then Eid al-Mawlud. We've got 3 Eids. Now, would you like to, for the sake of our listeners and viewers, some of whom might not be Muslims, but who I'm sure will be interested in knowing, because at the end of the day, we want to promote, mutual religious understanding and things like that. Would you want to, inform us, let us know what is the difference between these 3? What is Eid al-Mawlud, Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Kabir?
Well, Eid al-Fitr, that's the one that marks the end of Ramadan. We usually celebrate it to show appreciation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for making it possible for us to observe Ramadan successfully. That is the 29 fasting or 30, depending on the moon. So that marks the end of Ramadan. We give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we carry along the teachings that have been there in Ramadan and exercise it throughout the year. While Eid al-Adha, it marks the 5th pillar of Islam, that's Hajj, pilgrimage. So whenever it is Zul Hajj, we usually celebrate Eid al-Adha, and it comprises of the history of Prophet Abraham with his son Ismail alayhi salatu wassalam. Most of the things we do is like we are emulating some practices of his wife Hajara, that is the mother of Ismail, like Sa'i Bain Safa wal Marwa, the movement we used to carry out from a place called Safa to Marwa is of course something that has done by Hajara. So we are commemorating that one to remember the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Prophet Ibrahim,
Abraham in English.
Abraham as it's called normally. He is the one that established Mecca, as we know. So all the activities there remind us of his days, how he was very sacrificial to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for him to have left his family there just because Allah asked him to do so. He did that. So it gives us the ability to actually reflect back on those histories, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it the 5th pillar of Islam, and it's compulsory. While Eid al-Adha is not like them. I mean Eid al-Mawlud is not like them, because these 2, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the one who prescribed it upon the Ummah, that it should be celebrated. Whereas Eid al-Mawlud is actually a perception of scholars that comes after the companions, or let me say the disciples of those who came after the companions, that tabi'in. It has started in this form in the late 3rd century after the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the reason behind it is that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will actually make it compulsory for us to celebrate Prophet Ibrahim through pilgrimage. And it is obvious and known to Muslims that when Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam migrated to Medina, he met Jews there, and they used to celebrate Prophet Moses, that's Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, on the basis of Ashura. There is a fasting they used to do in celebration, in celebration to his safety from Pharaoh, right?
Pharaoh.
Yeah, it's called, he's called Pharaoh in English. So, and Prophet asked them, why are they doing this fasting? They said, because we are thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he saved our prophet in this particular day. And he said, نحن أولى منكم بموسى. We are more dearer to Moses than you. So from now henceforth, we are equally going to be celebrating this Ashura by fasting. So Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, the author of Fath al-Bari, Sharh Sahih al-Bukhari, I think the largest book of Sunnah commentary we have, he said this hadith alone has actually laid foundation upon which Muslims should gather and celebrate their prophet as well. If Prophet Muhammad celebrated Moses, then definitely he deserves to be celebrated by Muslims. Yeah, that's one. And then other scholars says that if you look at the verse from the glorious Quran, وَكُلًّا نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الرُّسُلِ مَا نُثَبِّتُ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ, or the messenger of Allah, we narrated all the history of these prophets, Moses, Jesus, Abraham, Isaac, Ishmael, and then Allah said, we narrated unto you their history so that your hearts will be firm on the message sent down to you. Scholars said, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make the heart of the prophet firm by narrating the stories of those prophets before him, then it means if we can come together and get a speaker that will narrate to us the life, the history life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then our heart will equally be firm. In fact, we are in more need of such than him, because he has contact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly, but we do not. So that is how this Maulud came about, and that's why up to today you realize that there are some group of Muslims who do not believe practicing it this way, even though majority actually celebrate it. So this make the thoughts Eid, and of course Yawm al-Jum'ah, today is Friday, is an Eid.
Is that also Eid?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
It's one of the recognized 3 Eids even before the Maulud.
Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially Muslims have 4 different, festivities, if I were to put it that way.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Yeah. So you might want to shed a little more light on Jum'ah. Well, I do know what Jum'ah is, but for the sake of our viewer and listener, Jum'ah,
of course, a tradition of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that Jum'ah is an Eid. Eid simply means an event where Muslims gather a large number.
Okay.
Yeah, the essence is not actually to worship. No.
Okay.
See one another, make well wishes to one another,
exchange pleasantries,
of course,
share food,
ask how well everyone is, so that you can help those who are in need of any material thing. That's the essence. If you didn't see someone on Fridays prayers, you ask, I didn't see this guy, is he okay? You check on him, make sure that he's so. It's just for us to get ourselves closer and closer, and establish that mutual feelings that yes, we are brothers to one another. So Eid simply means an event where Muslims gather to actually remind themselves on the blessings and bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon them. And you understand that's why that even if a woman is not in purity state, that she is in her period, she's still allowed to go to Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. She joined Muslims in the Eid ground, not because she's there to pray, but she is there to be in the mix of Muslims. So there is that happiness of you being in one place. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used to be happy when you see believers gathering in the same ground for his sake and for his purpose.
Okay,
that's beautiful.
I think just yesterday we have gone through reports, having Christian Association of Nigeria, having governors, politicians, calling for peace, especially looking at the commemorations, the Maulud, which is, we had it day before yesterday, I want to believe, and so calling for peace. Now let's just come back to you. So what will be your own voice? You lend your voice in calling for peace, which of course will ensure national development. So
I think peacemaking is a necessity for every believer.
It's a necessity for every believer.
Yeah, and I think to lay a good foundation on this, we look at what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did the first time he migrated to Medina. There is this rules and regulation that he sat with Jews and Christians in Medina.
So there were Christians in Medina? And Jews and all
Jews were more popular, of course. Jews were more popular there. They were more popular there, of course. So when he met there is what we call Wathiqatul Medina. This Wathiqatul Medina is an agreement of how to live in harmony with those who are Muslims and those who are idol worshippers and those who are Jews, specifically these 3 groups in Medina. And it itemizes the rights of every individual and the contribution everyone is expected to make
for
development. Yes, of course. If you like, you can call it a mini constitution that's aimed at making that environment peaceful and secured for everyone.
So yeah, Ustaz, the 3 parties you mentioned, the Jews, the idol worshippers who actually were neither Muslims nor Jews.
Yeah.
And then the Muslims themselves, were all they were all privy, they were all party to the drafting of this, this particular document you're talking about.
Of course, their consent was sought. Yeah, they are part and parcel of the agreement.
So that their value will also reflect in the way we should live together.
Of course, their right is being protected. Yeah.
And so Medina was actually, just like Nigeria of today, a secular society where everybody just did their thing.
Of course, when the Prophet met them there, that's how it is. Some converted later to Islam, some actually betrayed the agreements and they have to leave the place. But as far as Islam is concerned, Islam does not see non-Muslims as someone who is far from them. Why? Because you can imagine, even when the battle between Persia and Rome took place, Muslims in Mecca were very aggrieved because Persians won
The battle.
the battle. Why? Simply because they saw Christians of those days as their brothers, to the extent that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to send down a complete chapter giving glad tidings to Muslims that be patient. In coming years, few years to come, the battle will take place again and Rome is going to win. That's Surah to Rome.
And the Romans were not Muslims.
They were not, they were Christians.
But the Muslims wanted them to win the war,
Yes, of
because
course.
of this, a spiritual connection
Yes.
between them.
For the fact that Muslims see Jesus Christ as their leader, of course. And if you didn't believe in Jesus Christ, you are not a Muslim. You are not at all. So believing in him, respecting him, saying good things about him is part of Islam. That it cannot be actually overlooked. Once you play with any of the prophet of God, you are no longer a Muslim.
So Muslims and Christians have this in common.
Yes, of course. So we must see where we have things in common and actually capitalize on that. Yeah. See how we can benefit one another. And God has it. If he had wished, he would have made Nigeria a Muslim country or a Christian country, but decided to put us together so that we learn from one another. And sometimes when you have someone who is from different religion close to you, it makes you more conscious of your faith. You wouldn't want to disappoint your God, because if you cheat on him, you say, "Oh, is that how your religion taught you?" So you become more conscious.
It makes you careful.
Yeah, very careful. And that's why when Muslims from Nigeria go to Arab countries, they used to be surprised. Muslims from Nigeria are very Islamically oriented and they put things into actions. We pray more than they do. We act upon the books more than they do. And I think this is because we are in the mixture of different religions. So Islam has taught us to be pacific and peaceful. At all costs, we should not allow anyone to use his personal interest to create any mayhem, crisis, misunderstanding, or conflicts. And you have no reward if you kill any innocent life.
Oh, right. Shuaibu,
Yes.
I have this for my scholar this morning. Now, still talking about, you just mentioned, you landed on a phrase that I would pick from it, misunderstanding, to avoid any sort of misunderstanding. Now, we have this group of individual or, a terrorist who would always and sometimes decide to associate themselves with Islam, and in some cases they call themselves, they bring in some part of the identity of Islam, and then they call it Islamic whatever, and then so. And yesterday one of our callers said he was very happy because non-Muslims are beginning to understand that such groups are actually not serving the interests of Islam. So what's your take?
Well, whatever you have an original, you should expect the fake one, of course. And mostly when someone claims to be Muslim and he goes contrary to Islam, simply telling you that he's not a real Muslim. And to make it short, if really these people are Muslims, they shouldn't have been killing Muslims more than any other religious group.
I know that they walk into mosques and shoot
Yes, of
worshippers.
course. They will attack Muslims 10 or 20 times before attacking any other non-Muslims. And it is obvious, if before we didn't understand this, should I call it conspiracy or something of that nature, it is now more obvious because of social media. When you look at the universe at large, you realize that these groups are everywhere. And in most cases, when you dig down, the research will reveal to you that the essence of these things is nothing but economical. It has to do with economy. That does it. That is one. And I cannot categorically say that all of them are not Muslim, of course. But when you wrongly hand over your faith to someone who doesn't know what the religion is all about,
Yes.
you are bound to be misled, of course. So if you didn't get the authentic religion, definitely you can mislead, irrespective of whether it is Islam or it is Christianity. Most of the times, security officers have been arresting those who are not Muslims, and they are always doing this thing in collaboration with those groups that you mentioned. So I think what is important for Muslim is to get those scholars who know what Islam is and who can accommodate differences, because I think the genesis of most of the problems we have is lack of accommodation of differences.
Intolerance.
And this misconception of ideology, teachings and whatsoever is human. Right from the inception of human being, we are bound to misunderstand things. And it's one of the effects of communication. When you say something to three people, everyone will pick up.
Have a different understanding.
Yes, of course.
Will interpret it differently.
And Islam is not an exception in this case, because even at the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would say something to companions, and when they want to act upon it, there is every tendency that this group of companions will do it contrary to. For example, when he commanded them that none of them should perform Salatul Asr except when they reach a place called Bani Qurayza. La yusallinna ahadun Salat al-Asr illa fi Bani Qurayza. None of you should perform Asr prayer until he reaches Bani Qurayza, is the name of place.
Okay.
You see that on their way, the time of Asr prayer reached. Some of them said, we have to pray here. Some say, no, he said until we reach
get
there.
a certain
So
place.
part of them prayed there, and part of them
Didn't.
They didn't. And when they went there, they narrated to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, they are all right. That is to tell you that you must have different understanding when it comes to communication.
So the Prophet said, those who did and those who didn't were both right.
Yes, of course. Both of them, they were right. He said, one asabtum sunnah, and the other group, lakum ajrain.
Okay.
This particular group, they have gotten it right, and the others have also. No blame was put onto any. So this misconception, the way a Muslim scholar or his ability to contain differences, accommodate different opinions, and tells how rich or resourceful he is in Islam. But when you think you are the only righteous person, then the problems begins there, because you will end up saying that you are the only servant of God that's supposed to be in existence. So there is that need for us to learn to accommodate differences. Know that God wants the earth the way it is, and you can never change it. There is no amount of bloodshedding that will actually make Nigeria become fully Christian state or fully Islamic state. So we must believe in that. Make sure that you are spiritually okay. God will ask you about yourself, not others. Yeah.
Yes.
Allah will ask you upon your action, not other people's action.
Definitely.
He made them to be what they are, so you cannot change them. That's just the reality.
Thank you, Yavstaz.
Thank you very much.
I just had to calm down and listen, because the discussion is quite revealing. Now, Yavstaz, you did say something about accommodating differences, as well as differences in understanding and interpretation and things like that. And I do know, speaking even as a political scientist, I do know that sometimes when a certain scholar or a philosopher speaks on this particular issue, another scholar speaks on the same issue, but in a different perspective and things like that. Like you said, it's human and things like that. Now, how do we sort of apply this, this understanding? Because I do understand that, and like you did mention also that the celebration of Eid al-Mawlud is not an all-Muslim affair, because even within the Muslim community, there are those who feel there's no justification for it, and so they don't celebrate it. And that was why even day before yesterday, Wednesday, when Eid al-Mawlud was being celebrated, there were Muslims who didn't take part in it. Does it have something to do with these differences in understanding and interpretation of doctrinal religious issues, which you actually did mention?
Yeah, you see, those who are not celebrating it, their reasons has been mentioned earlier, that this Eid is not part of those Eid that were mentioned by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that's where they stop. But even as at that, there are other things that they do, and the names of those things were not mentioned in the Sunnah categorically. Of course, it is known to all and sundry That's virtually all Muslims, they do celebrate Quranic graduation, walima, you understand? And we do take part in Musabaqa, that's Quranic competition. And not to even talk of these things because they are popular now, but even from the time of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is this little thing. Talk of the compilation of the glorious Quran. When Umar met Abu Bakr Siddiq when he was the first Caliph of Islam, when he met him and told him that, please, there is need for us to compile Quran in a book. What was the response by Abu Bakr Siddiq? He said, "Lan af'ala shay'an lam yaf'alhu Rasulullah." I will not dare do something that said Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has not done it. What does that mean? It is bid'ah. That's what it means. But consistently, when Umar keep reminding the Abu Bakr Siddiq the essence for it, he reasoned with him, and that's how the first compilation comes to existence.
Even though the Prophet didn't do it. So in other words, when Prophet Muhammad was alive, the Quran wasn't actually in the form of a single book.
Yes, it is not.
So it was under Abu Bakr that it was actually
first compiled. Yes. So you can see the first set of Sahaba, they have this thing. And then during Umar bin Khattab, he went to the mosque of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Ramadan, and he saw the companions performing Tarawih differently. Everyone is doing it individually. And he said, Kai, let it take a different shape. He gathered them together and make one of them to be imam, to lead the prayer. That is the first congregation in Ramadan, Salatul Tarawih, that we used to call it Asham in HAUSA, Salah Asham. Many companions were there, but none of them said, no, Prophet didn't do this,
so we cannot do it.
Yes. And you can even see from the number of the Tarawih, some scholars are in the opinion that you cannot pray more than 13 rakat in the night. But when Umar bin Khattab gathered the companions, he asked the imam to be giving them 20 rakats, more than the number of the rakats performed by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You can see how he understands the Sunnah. It does not mean that the exact number as performed by the Prophet must be the exact number that should be performed by it depends on the condition and how you see your people and how you can tackle your present condition. So you can see even the companions, they do know some things about the prophets, and they can go contrary when they see something or when they understand that it is not compulsory. The laws are not rigid. That's to say, Islamic law is flexible. And that's why even if you didn't agree with something that you think others are doing because it is not mentioned, you will be found guilty of doing something similar to that.
So there are things you believe in that others don't believe in. And there are things others believe in that you also...
And the bases are the same.
Yes.
The bases are the same. So there is what Muslim scholars make use of in identifying what is allowed and what is not allowed. And that's when the issue of usul al-fiqh comes in. I remember we discussed about this thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So this usul al-fiqh, it gives basis on how you derive laws that legalize or make things not to be legal in Islam. These setting rules will let a scholar understand that so long the ingredients of your soup are valid, then the soup is valid.
I love that. What do we call it? I love that description. So as long as the ingredients of the soup are valid,
of course,
the soup is actually valid.
Ustaz, please, thank you very much. Sorry, I would have to interrupt. We'll be coming back. We're going on a short break. Yes, of course, don't you ever think of yourself as the most righteous. And it's human to have character strength and character weakness. And that is the more reason for which we need to, be tolerant. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this short time out.
Mr. Politician, it's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here. You had me thinking you were dead. How's your taxpayer mansion? How was your...
Are you bored?
Mr. Politician.
Glad to say welcome back on the Unity 93.3 FM and Unity TV. Beatrice Adamuizi remains my name, and I have our stars in the house. I don't want to take much of our time because I just want to to let him continue on what he has started already. But I want you also to know that this is your time. It's that segment with which you would need to call us and let's hear from you, your opinions. You can also visit our Facebook page and you throw in your comments. We read them at the appropriate time. And of course, for SMS, you go 080-478-9999 for SMS. And for a phone call, the studio line remains the same, 070-3235-3315. And you call us, tell us if you're watching us from our Facebook page or you're watching on the TV free to air. And now, Ustaz, back to you. You were talking about if the ingredient that makes the soup. If the ingredients for your soup is it's okay. It's okay. If it's fine. If it's okay, then the soup in itself it's okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We are discussing about usul al-fiqh. That's the basics upon which Muslim Ummah or scholars make judgment to certain issues. So, in most cases, contradiction comes when we have what you call mantuq and mafhum. That's the literal content of a verse and what could be understood from the verse. So, normally, if you stick to the literal meaning, you will be misled in most cases. So, you must go extra mile, studying, understanding, and comparing that verse with those verses who have similarities or who have or which have differences with that verse. Then you make a very sound judgment. And in continuation to the issue of Tarawih, after Umar made it 20, when Imam Malik was the Imam of the mosque of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Malik bin Anas, he made this Tarawih up to 36 rak'ats.
So the Prophet did 13, and then it was later
20
and now even more than that.
Yes, of course. 36 by Malik bin Anas. And many centuries after that, the Masjid al-Nabawi, that's the Prophet mosque, they used to perform up to 36 rak'at, while Mecca, they do perform 20 rak'ats. That is for you to understand that there are things that are flexible in Islam. There are rigid things, of course, like 5 daily prayers. You cannot decide to say, I will be making 6 daily prayers.
Yes.
And you cannot add the number of rak'at in prayers. And there's specific amount to be given out in zakah. And you know that Hajj is performed once in a year. You cannot make it twice.
You can't say, I have got money, so I am going there 10 times.
Very good, very good. You can only go there for lesser Hajj, that is Umrah. And even among these 5 pillars of Islam, there are things that scholars actually differ in opinion. For example, when you look at vegetables, like tea, let's say cashew, pineapple, and the likes, those fruits that cannot be preserved over time. According to Malik bin Anas, you don't give out zakah out of them because they are your farm produce. But Abu Hanifa say no, it has to be given out. In those days, everybody reasons with Malik more. Why? Because he lived in the city of the prophets, and he actually studied from more than 200 sound disciples of the companions of the prophet. So he has more reason than Abu Hanifa. But whether we like it or not, today this rule has very minimal application in the Muslim world. Why? Because there are countries whose economy depend on this farm produce. Look at Brazil and Argentina. Most of their farm produce are of this nature. It's vegetables and fruits. And when you say the Prophet ﷺ hasn't asked any of the companions to give out zakat out of that, does that mean Muslims in those countries will not give out zakah?
Yeah, Ustaz, I'm loving this. So you're actually saying that, the circumstances that informed a particular position during the time of the Prophet, I mean, you're actually saying that it was either right or wrong to give certain things in the time of the Prophet because of the circumstances of those days. And today, what was given as zakat, in those days, I mean, it was probably wrong to give something, as zakat in those days because of the circumstances of those days. But it is right today,
of course,
to give the same thing,
because
of the circumstances of today.
To say more on that, is because most of the farmers during the time of the Prophet ﷺ and those around him, most of the farmers, they don't produce those vegetables and fruits that cannot be preserved. Most of them are producers of grains. So you can see the essence of zakah there will lie more on those grains.
Because that was what was obtainable.
Yes. And Abu Hanifa, look at what is the essence of zakah. The essence of zakah is to cushion the effect of poverty in the community.
Sort of charity.
Yes. You are giving it out to cushion the poverty. Those who cannot feed on themselves, or those who cannot feed themselves. Yes, sorry to say. So, if the essence is to cushion the effect of poverty, and this particular group of people, their major farm produce is just the vegetables and fruits, then leaving out zakah from their farm produce will definitely make no sense in Islam. And that's why most of the Islamic world today, they see reason in giving out zakah in vegetables and farm the fruits that are not preservable.
So Prophet Muhammad didn't give rice because there was no rice probably in his days, but today we can give rice because that's what we have.
Yes,
so circumstances determine, what we accept at the end of the day.
You can mention a lot of things like this, of course.
Yeah, right. Ustaz, at this point, I will just put on the studio line so that our viewer and, of course, our listener may begin to call, and so that we hear also their side of their comments and read also from Facebook. If you want to be a part of it, remember you can just call us on 070-3235-3315, and on Facebook you can just go Unity Radio FM/TV JOS. And again, if you call, just tell us your name, where you're calling us from, and then you go in a minute. Let's have your own take. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Oh, thank you. Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Doro.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, sir.
Please, I want to use my 1 minute to just congratulate you people on this wonderful discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Next year, I have so much to ask, but I believe my 1 minute I cannot afford to maintain my questions for 1 minute because I have a lot of something that I've never had this morning. So I'm pleading with you. This is to give me this number. Please. Please and please.
Okay.
Can I see my number?
You mean the guest?
Yes.
The guest?
Can I see it? Can I call my number now?
Yes, yes.
Hello?
Yes, let me have your number.
I need the number of the...
Yeah, just give me yours. Give me yours. Let me
Okay,
just
so
have yours.
I will say it in Arabic, sorry, but for the promoter of security. People, Samanya, Suffer, Sister, Sister Harba, Talata, Sister.
Is okay.
Can you please take that again so that the ustaz actually, interpret it while we jot it down?
Okay, sir. Okay, Sister, Samanya, Suffer.
Please
thank
can you do that one after another?
Thank you very much. I think it's okay. I've gotten that, so it's okay. Just stay tuned. We'll call you after the show. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very much. He would want to establish a personal relationship because of the need to get to know some more about what he feels is important for him. And that too is welcome for us. We encourage that on this platform. So if you want to be a part of it, please don't hesitate. 070-3235-3315 is the line to be a part of this discussion this morning. It promises to be very, very interesting. And so on our Facebook page, we have this one from Garba Nahali Kambar Kebi. Say good morning. You're welcome, Garba. And this one from Faisal Sadiq. He say good salam alaikum to you all, the studio. My questions to the guest is, where did Maulud originated from? Originated. Okay. Yes, originated from, because the Prophet SAW told us there are only 3 Eid in Islam: Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, and Eid al-Jamaat. All right, thank you very much. He would respond in due time. And this one is coming from Ismail Isa. Good morning, Kobe, Mr. Doro, and the guest in the house. Sincerely, my heart fills up with joy, happiness with you. We wish you a long life and healthy, more wisdom and knowledge. Thank you. We appreciate you, Ismail Isa, for that. And then this one is coming from Rabiu Usman. Say, good morning, Uncle B and the guest in the house. To be sincere, Sheikh said a lot regarding the teaching of Islam, and I hope we will put it into practice. May Almighty Allah increase your knowledge, and may He bless you abundantly.
Amen.
You say amen to that. And this one is coming from Muhammad Tajuddin. He said, good morning, gentlemen in the studio. The Ustaz has spoken very well. May God reward you abundantly. The illiterate among us are the major problem of every religion, so we should endeavor to learn about all aspects of our religions and make sure we put what we learned into practice. May Allah guide us aright. Muhammad Tajuddin from Naraguda. Muhammad, thank you very much. We have a caller here. Okay, you'll be responding in due time, please. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you very much.
My name is Peace Ambassador Usman Big Seven. I'm calling from ZINARIYA.
It's good to have you, Peace Ambassador.
Good morning.
Thank you very much, sir. Hello?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
May Allah reward you.
Amen.
How I wish every person will put this your comment into practice. God bless you people. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Big Seven. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Okay, Big Seven there. And this one is coming from, Shabudoro is watching. That's good.
Sorry.
Okay.
So let me quickly respond to
Yes.
what my brother said. You see, the major problem we have is we don't even know how Suna and Quran is to be understood. You don't simply open Quran or Hadith, read the literal meaning and think that you can make verdicts on issues. There are certain rules, and for us to claim whether this is right or not, we have to look back at what scholars says about it. Starting from the highest scholar of Hadith, that's Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. I think there has no time where we have as a big scholar as Ibn Hajar in time. The person who took the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, digest it, discuss it, compare it with Quran and other related Sunnah to make valid arguments. So in his book Fathul Bari, he said that if Prophet Muhammad ﷺ can celebrate Moses on the basis of Ashura, then it is permissible. That is what you call inferential deduction. That is qiyas. You look at a scenario, compare the similarities, and you make judgment to the other one that doesn't have.
Like you said, the laws are not rigid; they are flexible.
Yes, it doesn't make sense if you just go to market and you buy constitution and by reading it you become a lawyer. It is never done that way. You need someone to tell you how laws are being interpreted. So if you look at Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, you look at Imam al-Nawawi. Everybody knows who Imam al-Nawawi is. If you look at Ibn Hajar al-Qastalani, Ibn al-Jazari, this Ibn al-Jazari as well, I think is worthy of mentioning that he is one of the two people that actually laid foundation for Qira'atul Ashra that we enjoy today. There was nothing like Hafs and Warsh in Islam. Qalun, Qumbul in the recitation. These two people, they are the major scholars that write and establish rules guiding all these 20 schools of recitation. So Ibn al-Jazari equally, he wrote a book, Urf al-Ta'rif bi Mawlid al-Nabi. If you look at the scholars that make valid judgment on Mawlud, you cannot get half, in fact, you cannot get 10% of such scholars who go contrary to it. If not because of these 200 years that maybe I can say revolution might have taken place in some part of the Islamic world, there has no any scholar that writes a book contrary to Mawlud. It is of the recent 200 years, that 13th century, after Hijrah. The only book you can find where Mawlud is being criticized out of the thousands books written with regard to Mawlud is that of Shaykhul Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. And one wonderful thing, as Allah wished, having condemned it in totality, he made the submission that for so long, those people who do Mawlud, they do it for the sake of love of the Prophet. They are going to get the reward for that.
Okay. We may...
That is submission he made. He didn't agree. He has never done done it before. But that is a submission. That
It's
is
the motive
rewardable.
is to actually revere the Prophet.
Yes.
We may pick some more so that we just let you okay. This one is saying is an SMS saying, in doing the Ikama today while praying, what name was the Prophet Muhammad praying to? This one is coming from Dan Marabu from Basa. He's asking a question there. I pray that
I didn't get the question.
Okay.
In doing the Ikama.
Yes. In doing the Ikama today while praying, what name was the Prophet Muhammad praying to? His name is Dan Marabu.
The question doesn't seem quite clear.
Okay, you may need to resend that and recompose, and probably if there is still time. Okay, why don't we begin to... hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Good morning. Okay, we lost that. 070-3235-3315 is the line to join us this morning and be a part of it. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Oh, thank you very much for joining us.
Hello?
Hey, thank you for joining us.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning. We can hear you.
Thank you very much. This is Adil from Punturu.
Okay, I deal with me and amen to that. Thank you. I deal with me maybe on track.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. I deal with me.
Okay, thank you very much. I say you see, the major thing in life is not anything that supersedes God. When there is nothing to it. Because the scripture made it clear. And no matter how kind, how beautiful, how patient you are, if you don't love, be sure that there is always love among us. Let's allow love always be the utmost priority of our relationship. Whether you're a Christian or a Muslim, so it's not love that matters.
Okay.
So let's just emulate love and always live in peace with one another.
All right. Thank you. Somehow today, I want to believe he's on a transit somehow.
Apparently.
And that is why we could not get it real clear. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. Who is with us this morning? Hello? Hello?
Hello, this is Ariel.
Okay, where are you calling us from?
I'm calling you from Masu.
Okay, please, you have a minute.
Okay, I just want to ask you a question.
Okay, go on, please.
The history of Islam, when was the Maulud first established?
All right.
The 1400 years of Islam. When was the Maulud first established?
Okay, thank
When
you.
was Maulud first practiced? Something like that.
Thank you very much. Stay tuned. Okay, I will just let you respond and then we round up.
So, Maulud in this format has been initiated in the late 3rd century after the Prophet ﷺ by a king called Malik Muzaffar. And the essence of that is for him to gather the Muslim Ummah, knowing fully that for long there has not been connection between the people living at that time, direct or indirect connection with Prophet Muhammad. So they might have lost that affection and longing and yearning of the Prophet Muhammad. So he wanted to revive that spirit of love. So he decided to call scholars and gather his people and ask them to lecture them on the history life of the Prophet Muhammad and what are those attitudes we're supposed to exhibit towards the Prophet Muhammad. What many people don't know today is that there are specific words, even the words to praise someone, there are specific words you use when you are discussing about the Prophet ﷺ. When you talk about his handsomeness, you are not to attribute any beauty that looks like a woman to the Prophet ﷺ. When you talk of his wisdom, you will not attribute to him any attributes that looks like somebody who will use his wisdom to deceive others. The system is politics and governance. So you must choose best words in describing him. So it is only in Maulud that people tend to understand this, and that is the essence why it gets started. And immediately after it gets started, scholars establish their opinion about the validity of the Maulud. And normally, when not only in Islam, everywhere, when you publish a book in political sciences, professionals in the field will look at the book. If they agree and okay it, they will keep quiet. If they disagree, they will write. So, century after century, scholars keep writing on the validity, and there has not been any contrary opinion written by any scholar to disagree with those scholars. And these scholars I have mentioned, they are the backbone of the Islamic religion. You cannot do without Imam al-Nawawi. You know, every Muslim knows. You must have one or two of his books in your home. These are the people who give value. And Imam Suyuti as well. That is Akhil Hufaz. That's the seal of the scholars of Hadith. He published a book, and he made mention of numerous number of scholars who give valid argument on this. And what many people don't understand when they say Prophet doesn't do it or he doesn't name it. But why did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man sanna fil Islami sunnatan hasanatan, falahu ajruha wa ajru man amila biha ila yawm al-qiyamah." Whoever comes up with something new in Islam that is good, sunnatan hasana, you invented something good in Islam.
Even if the Prophet didn't do it.
That's why he said man sanna. If the Prophet has done it, it shouldn't have become no something new now. It's not an issue. It becomes sunnah. But say man sanna fil Islami sunnatan hasana falahu ajruha. If you invented something new in Islam that is good, you have the reward for that what you have started. And even those who emulate you up, you still have reward for them doing it. So you have multiple and geometric number of rewards. The more people do it, the more rewards you have. I think people should reason. But the issue of Maulud and other things actually requires a very logical mind. It's not for common people to comprehend. Yeah. So for me to convince a layman, it's very difficult because there are rules that cannot be gotten except in school, and people don't like going to schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. What will be your parting word if may have to ask you?
Yeah, I think I will share this passion with Muslims are expected to see Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in their own lifestyle. You should be able to emulate him in the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you interact, the way you actually do your business, the way you learn, the way you teach, the way you lead, the way you follow. You must see him as an exemplary leader that you can't see anything good outside him. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has perfected his nature that he contains everything. Everything you need, you find it in Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the more you emulate him, the better you become spiritually and otherwise. And the more people will love you. And the more Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will love you. So please, as we celebrate Maulud, it's not only about maybe chanting poems and whatsoever. It's about emulating. While you praise him, you are praising him because of those qualities, good qualities he has. Then how ready are you to emulate him in those qualities? Please, we should try. I encourage Muslims, I enjoy them to actually practice Islam the way Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam practice it. And I wish every Muslim, and even non-Muslims, because there are a lot of non-Muslims who are celebrating Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I wish us happy Maulud. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us in faith and in health.
Well, thank you. The last SMS to read this morning is saying, good morning to all the most beautiful people, tough situations, but still manage to keep a smile on their faces and say thank you so much. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, while humanity is a treasure, be humble. May Allah guide us right. Hassan Garba, thank you. Your final word, please.
Yeah, well, alhamdulillah, I like to say that, I'm elated, I appreciate the sheikh's, very beautiful and insightful, and submissions. And I hope that, like he said, we will all be, Muslims, not just Muslims in name, but Muslims in practice. And he also did say that, even if you're not a Muslim, at the end of the day, humanity is what actually supersedes every other, I mean, humanity supersedes every other, primordial consideration. That is it. So we do hope that at the end of the day, we will actually emphasize those issues, promote those things that, actually emphasize our commonality, and de-emphasize those things that actually, are our areas of differences, so that humanity can progress.
Thank you so much, Doro, for being in the studio. Ustaz, it's good to have you. We look forward to having more of you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you very much for being there, our listener and our viewer. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. This is the end of today's Unity Train and end of it for this week. Look forward to meet on Monday for another interesting edition. Bye-bye. Do stay out of trouble. Have a peaceful weekend.
Mr. Politician, it's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here. You had me thinking you were dead. How's your taxpayer mansion? How was your...
Please pay attention. It starts from the foundation. Everybody needs somebody.